When I still drank, I remember the look of concern where doctors still have to be professional, where they're like, what are your drinks a week? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And they're like, well, what would you say you drink nightly? And I was like, like 4 beers and 4 shots. And they were like, that's 8 drinks. And I was like, yeah, so I usually do in between like that and 16. And they're like, do you do this nightly? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, that's a problem. You should have under 25 drinks a week. And I was like,
under 25 a week.
I go, like, brother, I'm hitting quota by Tuesday.
Everybody, welcome back to Comedy Pinata, live from New York City. Very excited, obviously, with Mike Albanese, and then with our very, very special guest, smelling the mic.
I can't smell, dude.
Off a horrible night's sleep.
Yeah.
Dan Soder.
Last night, I'm going to be honest, I took an edible.
Yeah.
And that helped me go down for a good amount of hours.
So you've always just had issues with sleep.
I didn't know I did.
Yeah.
I always slipped and flopped and always thought, like, oh, this bed's not comfortable. And then when I started living with Katie during the pandemic, she was like, you don't sleep. You know that, right? And I was like, well, I fall asleep easy. And she's like, yeah, you sure do. And then you just start moving around.
So you're out like a light. So when you're moving around, you're kind of awake?
Yeah, I kind of remember it, but not really.
So you're not getting real sleep?
No. So I went to a sleep apnea doctor. I did a sleep test, and they're like, you have sleep apnea. And they're like, we're going to give you a mask. And I just haven't found a mask that works yet. And everyone's like, and then the insurance also goes like, you have to average 4 hours a night with the mask for the first 90 days, or we take the machine. And I'm like, well, the machine, it's on a computer.
They track it.
So they track it. Yeah, it's weird. Everywhere. Throw up in your dreams like fucking Freddy Krueger.
Well, you know what?
Just Biden checking in on.
Yeah, I bet Biden wants to watch me sleep, the old sicko.
Well, just watch the Comedy Pinata episode with Bobby Kelly. That will put you right to bed.
Why was he just like
right to bed? It'll put you to sleep pretty easily. Sleep is my superpower. I got home, not to like rub it in, but I got in Sunday. Sundays I get in, and then Mondays I get to sleep in. It's like my Saturday, like our Saturday.
Yeah.
11 hours.
Undisturbed?
Undisturbed.
So can I ask
just
you
like
something?
this?
Because I am blown away by this, Steve.
My record in college is 18 hours.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
When you go down, right? When you fall asleep.
When I go down, yeah.
Yeah, when you fall into your coffin and someone shuts it, and your liege shuts the coffin door on you. When you awake.
Yeah.
Hey, this is fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm.
When you fall asleep, is it just like you wake up and you're like, oh, that was 11 hours?
No, I wake up and I'm just like, oh, that was fucking great. And I go, I could do that again. I could do that more. But what I do is I check and see how long I slept for. I'm like, oh my God.
Like, you're blown away.
Blown away at how much sleep I get. And then I'll, like, especially if I'm on the road or whatever, Saturday, I'll clock a good 10. And then I go and eat lunch and I'm like, I can take another nap.
See, I do that because I'm not sleeping. So, like, I am pretty much polar opposite of you. I'll, like, sleep and wake up and be like, okay, that was 2 hours? Okay. So that was an hour? Okay. 30 minutes? And then I'm like, I need more sleep. And so I wake up kind of like.
So you never feel fully rested?
No.
Never.
That's why I'm always drinking coffee.
To keep ahead of it.
Just to keep.
It's like drinking
weed. So I go down and so I'm like extra tired and then.
It's starting to feel like it's answering itself.
Yeah.
Gravity it's becoming clear as to why.
Oh man, if I quit.
Yeah.
Man, if I quit all that and it worked, I'd be so mad because I'd be like, listen to that, because I like coffee and weed.
It's the best.
And then I'd be like, I can't.
Have you discussed that with the apnea people? Like
Steve,
the experts?
Steve, what do these fucking dorks want to know about me? They don't get it.
Oh, the dream dorks?
Yeah. Oh, you fucking sleep nerds. Get out of here.
You're supposed to tell your doctor the truth. I've been lying to my doctor for
how often do you drink a week?
Cigarettes, I'm like, ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, you're supposed to tell them because they'll know what to do. I'm like, it's not going on the record.
Yeah.
Let my permanent record show Marlboro.
When I still drank, I remember the look of concern where doctors still have to be professional, where they're like, what are your drinks a week? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And they're like, well, what would you say you drink nightly? And I was like, like 4 beers and 4 shots. And they're like, that's 8 drinks. And I was like, yeah, so I usually do in between like that and 16. And they're like, you do this nightly? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, that's a problem. You should have under 25 drinks a week. And I was like,
Under 25 a week.
I go,
like,
brother, I'm hitting quota by Tuesday. But I remember that.
You're putting up MJ numbers, man. Yeah.
You shot beer combo. You're running with weights on.
Well, I do straight Jameson on the rocks, but then I get roped in on a shot of JMO. So then I'll do shot of JMO with the JMO, and I'm like, I'm just washing down a shot with a shot.
That's crazy.
Crazy. No beer chaser.
That's the best.
Hey,
See, that's
my career.
that beer. Your beard told me your drink order when you said whiskey with IPA. I'm like, I bet you like to go axe throwing too, don't you?
There's some fried pickles in there if you want some.
What's
There's
that?
some fried pickles in there. There's like 2 or 3 left.
Pick
Yeah.
stuff. I go, that's weird. A Zach Wild guitar pick.
I like rye whiskey.
Yeah.
IPA is the only beer that I could hear less, but it's the only beer I could taste after drinking rye whiskey.
Oh, dude.
Otherwise, it just tastes like water, and I'm like, why am I drinking?
No, give me the Union Special. I like a Jameson and a Bud Heavy. Cold.
What's a Bud Heavy?
Regular Budweiser.
Oh,
Red Label.
Why is it called Bud Heavy?
Because Bud Light. Bud Heavy.
Oh, okay. Got
I
it.
didn't create that. I just heard it
Yeah.
and then I parroted it.
Your doctor told you?
Yeah, my doctor was like, we call those Bud Heavies, you pussy. I was like, I called it a Budweiser. Yeah, I used to love even the thought, even the idea of the color schemes. You know when you get excited when the NFL comes back? Like how exciting it is
Yeah.
after a long summer. Because football season just ended.
Sure, yeah.
But then you like go through the spring and the summer, and then you see like the collision of colors.
Right.
Whether it be like the Giants and the Cowboys. You just see like 2 color schemes smush and you're like, oh, you get excited. That's how I feel about the green of Jameson and the red and white of Budweiser. Where I'm like,
Really?
it gets me excited to drink. Where I'm like, oh, this fucking rules. I love it.
I just had lately, I was in, God, where was I? Bricktown? Have you ever done Bricktown?
Yeah, Oklahoma City. It's
Oh, my
great.
God. Fucking great.
I was there when it was 105 degrees out every day, and it was
It's
I was
105
sweating on
degrees
straight.
every night. I go, guys, I was saying turn up the heat as a joke. I go, it's fucking winter. Just open a door.
Dude,
like, open a door. It's
hot
fucking winter? Hot in here.
Were you doing? I felt like I was doing 10th sermons.
I wasn't doing Carrot Top. Like, I'm not running around bouncing. I'm just standing there telling
And
jokes.
you're
like,
sweating by the end.
dripping. I'm like, is it hot? When you see 8 girls go like this,
Yeah,
it's like, turn the air on. And I told them, just open a fucking door. It's February, guys.
dude. I was at. You live in Nashville. Before the pandemic, that summer 2019, I worked at the Zanies Nashville's, and the AC broke,
Oh, fuck.
and like I would just be sweating doing bits,
Oh, yeah.
but the audience was miserable. So then I'm sweating, so it just looks like I'm bombing, and everyone's sweating because I'm bombing. And everyone's like, yeah. I was like that Thursday night, and then I just started bringing a washcloth from the hotel, and I was a towel comic.
You watch a Bruce video?
Oh,
and be
I
like,
told him,
now what's the pat down? Every
told-
5 minutes, how many napkins
kept-
you got on the side?
Anytime a joke, anytime a joke didn't work, I'd pat myself and be like, "Ladies looking beautiful tonight. Ladies looking, a lot of beautiful ladies here tonight."
All right, let's get into Pinata. All right, we got our clips again. I don't know who these are. Our producer
Yeah.
and co-host Mike's picks them out. That's as far as I know, though. So here we go. Let's go with number 1.
First one, Jon
Jon
Dore.
Dore.
Amazing. Amazing. Can he?
See all the time at the. Sorry, good.
Oh, I was gonna say he's a guy that like I was a fan of before I met. Like Jon Dore, I'm like, I love Jon Dore.
One of the first comics you see like on TV.
Well, I'd also
when
see
you
him
started.
like him and Rory Scovel used to do shows together.
Sure.
And I'd go watch, and you'd be like, "Oh, these guys," or I'm like,
Conan.
well, they did multiple ones. They did the Conan where they both did their sets at the same time,
Mhm.
but then were so good that they were able to like one was able to get through. It was really cool to watch.
Yeah.
But then the Conan one of which I've seen them do at Cabin, Comedy as a Second Language. I saw him do it on Conan, where John's doing stand-up, Rory's heckling him, and then he's like, well, this is, what, you think you can do this? Why don't you come up here and do it? And then Rory goes up and does it. And they did it at Conan, and then what happened was, like, by the end it was John at Conan's desk, Rory was Andy.
Oh, that's so funny.
Conan was doing stand-up, Andy was heckling him. Like, they all, yeah, it was one of my favorite things I've ever seen on Conan.
That's so cool when like Conan would jump in on it because look, these late night sets, you jump through hoops just to get your set right.
Yeah, just sentences to get on.
Just to get that on, and then for him to be on board, that says how much he trusts these guys.
Conan likes them too so much, and he's just like, whatever you're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
There's Conan had a trust of like, yeah, you guys are fucking hilarious, but I love John.
I went back and watched his doc recently. Can't stop.
Yeah.
Because I've always been fascinated with the late night wars.
Oh, yeah.
With not only with Leno and Letterman back in the day, Bill Carter's book,
that was
great,
massive. Well, that was also a thing where we were like young,
very young, yeah.
And you like watched it. And the news was 5 channels,
always,
and it was like on the thing where they were like NBC wasn't really talking about it, but like ABC would love to talk about it.
Oh, for sure,
and
yeah.
you were like seeing that, and it was fascinating. Yeah, Leno and Letterman, and then when Conan.
Then the Conan, Letterman, Kimmel, everybody was in on that one.
The Leno Conan thing, people don't understand.
When Mark David Chapman shot Conan?
Yeah, where he went outside Strawberry Field, and he was like, I'm looking for a tall redhead. I'm gonna put one in him. But Conan, like Leno was like #1, and then NBC was like, okay, cool, next year you're done. And he's like, well, I don't really want to go anywhere. And then they're like,
right.
Well, we want Conan. He's like, well, so what if I did a show in front of Conan? And then that was the infamous thing where they were like, Conan wanted to have the Tonight Show at 12:30, and he goes, well, then it's not really the Tonight Show, it's the Tomorrow Show.
Right.
And they were like, yeah, okay. And then they fucked him. They fucked
NBC fucked everybody, but you know who got fucked the most is George Lopez. Because everything that was being associated with Conan, right? Conan was here, then he's getting bounced back, then he's moving up, and then he loses the show, right?
Yeah.
But he lost the show because he wouldn't stay on the Tonight Show, right?
Yeah.
But Lopez was actually on at TBS. He was on earlier. He got bumped back, and then his ratings suffered because of Conan. So he actually really did lose. Conan walked away.
Yeah.
Lopez lost his late night talk show because of Conan, and nobody ever brings that up.
That's great.
He's the casualty.
Eventually something else was going to get on there, Don't you think?
I mean, TBS is barely even existing anymore now. So
They got some pretty good stuff, dude. They got
Big Bang Theory,
NCAA Theory, and AEW Wrestling. So
and Slapbot.
Oh, they did. That came on.
That was there.
AEW.
Yeah.
I didn't even watch it.
All right. Well,
it's brutal to watch. Watching people just not protect themselves.
Getting crazy.
Yeah, put on Cops like we used to.
Women slap. No, that's a good comment.
I haven't seen the women.
Oh, the women's one.
Yeah.
They have it. Do they ever knock
versus like a dandelion?
Do they ever knock a titty out? Does it ever, where they slapping a tit comes out and you're like, yo. Well, I would call that. Where I get, oh my God, that tit right out of the brain. Yeah, we got a full nipple.
All right, let's watch Jon Dore here. That's every announcer you've ever seen on that show. Oh, God.
Oh, that's a titty.
I am a smoker. I started smoking in high school, and I never thought I'd get hooked. Like, I didn't know how powerful that addiction was. You know what I mean? Like, I always thought by the time I graduate, that's it, no more smoking. But now I'm 34 years old. There's no fucking way I'm ever going to graduate. Right? That's impossible. That can't be done. When my mom found out I started smoking, she looked me dead in the eye and she says, you want to smoke? You go ahead and smoke. But you know what? Smoking's just going to kill you, and I hope you fucking die. That's right. My mom is a gay man. Yeah. But it's weird. Like, quitting smoking is tough. I did it once. I lasted 4 months. 4 months. Quitting smoking is like a relationship that comes to an end. Because I was at the 4-month mark of that breakup, and all I wanted to do was hold her in my hand again. And then bring her close to me. And then light her on fire and throw her on the ground when I'm done with her. And watch a homeless man come by and have his way with her. You know. Okay, good. I get the sense from you people that you need to know a bit about me. I haven't really opened up to you. Well, growing up, we named our family dog. We named our family dog after my dad. Our dog's name was Dad, and it got confusing. One time at a family gathering, Dad shit on the carpet, and I wasn't even there to see it. I was out walking the dog, but I tell you, it ruined Mother's Day.
It's great.
Yeah, Dore's it's like, man, comedy now with all of the posts that everyone has to do.
Yeah.
It's watered down so much that when you see just jokes, you're like, that's a joke that he worked out.
Yeah.
That he took on the road. You could see where it goes.
Yeah.
There's like structure. It makes me feel like
there's still comedy out there.
Yeah, you know when there's people who are like, the military gave me structure. And you're like, oh, I get that.
Right.
I finally get that with comedy where you're like,
right.
It gives you structure sometimes because some shit now you're like, I don't even know who told you to post that. Just being
right,
like,
It was everything.
Everything.
You can't post nothing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna start posting my shits every morning. It's like, there you guys go. I'll see you in Buffalo at Helium, March 2nd through 5th. Look at that log. That's a complete log.
You know what I tried to do is I'm like, I'm so sick of like even my own, like I can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
So every time I'm in the airport, I go to use the restroom. I'm going to go take a piss and I see somebody taking a shit and I take a picture of their shoes and their pants down around them.
I like it.
And I daydream about what they're doing right at that moment.
Oh, yeah.
And so I wrote it and people are like, that's fucking gross. Can you never post that again?
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, now I got to just keep posting stand-up. I wanted to do something different.
I want to look at people's shoes who are pooping in the airport. I want to know who these brave souls are.
Somebody was just to do.
Yes, I did. That could have gotten way worse for Steve goes. So I go to the airport. I go in these stalls. I tap these guys' shoes with my shoe. And then what I do is I tell them where I'm doing stand-up.
And now I'm fundraising for 8 senators. It's the crazy thing. Yeah.
I'm in thick with the GOP.
Now you are a senator.
Yeah.
With stand-up, it's just like I see people online be like, I'm sick of stand-up. And you're like, yeah, so am I.
Yeah.
Like, I turn on social media and I have to go like...
Well, I think now people at home feel like we do when we go at clubs.
Yeah.
Like, at the clubs every night, it's like, all I see is stand-up. The last thing I want to do is be around stand-up. So when you go, after a certain point, you just want to kind of go in and do your set and get a drink at the bar, hang out with everybody else. But the last thing you want to do is be in the room and watch. And that's what I think society's starting to feel like now with everybody's fucking crowd work on. And it's helped underserved comics like Jessica Kirsten, for example.
Listen,
who
it's
is
blown up some of my friends that I'm like, God,
it's great.
Damn, good for you.
Yeah.
Good. But there really is, you just wonder if it's good for the overall health of comedy.
Well, it's like Netflix.
Remember how
Netflix was bad for the overall scheme? Like 52 specials in
it's great.
2 weeks.
Do you remember feeling shame telling people you're a comedian when you first started?
No, I never felt, because when I first started, I always, like, I started here in New York, and I thought it was the greatest thing because it's the greatest way to meet girls.
Oh, okay.
I'd see a girl rollerblading in the park, I'd be like, hey, I'm Steve, I'm at the Cellar, I kicked myself, I went, hi, I'm doing a show tonight at the Comedy Cellar, if you want to come by, I'll leave you some tickets. I mean, I just did it all day. And you'd have these girls come down and hang out. It was the greatest. And when I moved to L.A., I moved to L.A. when Steve Renazizi, Bert Kreischer, like Brett Ernst, like Bastion, Ari, we all moved at the same time, like 03, 04. We'd go play home run derby by the Grove.
That was fun.
We'd all just pitch to each other, hit balls. We'd be sweaty, muddy, and walk through the Grove. We'd time it out, 3 o'clock. The girls from The Price is Right were getting out. So you see the yellow name tags, like, you girls from Ohio State? That's crazy. We're at the Comedy Store tonight. Why don't you guys come down tonight?
Oh.
We did that for like a whole summer. It was the fucking greatest. So I never was ashamed of like stand-up. I was always like...
People would always be like, you're a comic? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, are you funny? And you're like, trying. And they're like, no. I just remember that, like, 04. I started in 04, and I
Yeah.
moved here in 07, and I just remember it being like, yeah, like other,
Really?
yeah, like waiters. I was just telling, we were talking because I used to wait tables like half a block away.
Sure, yeah.
And you go in, and all these actors would always be like, well, I want to be on Broadway, and I'm going to be in movies. And they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, I think I'm doing a check spot at Stand Up New York. And they're like, I want to come and support you. And you're like, no, you don't. Don't come into.
New York, you had people that would be like, "Oh, you're a comedian," even though they liked it or hated it.
Yeah.
I started in Atlanta, where someone found out you're a comedian. They're like, "But what do you really do?"
Yeah.
Because that's
Sure.
totally a profession.
Well, now
Well, there's so many clubs. Of course you could.
LA,
Right.
You're just like, yeah, but what do you do?
Right.
But for money.
Yeah.
They can't accept the fact that it even exists as a job.
Sure.
now people are just like, oh, they're like, you know who I love? And they say a comedian that you have to be like, oh, yeah.
Oh, you know what I get?
They stink. You know? Bring back the cellar days where you could be like, oh, yeah, them, they suck.
Garbage.
I was at a show last night, and this lady came out to me. She's, you know who I love? What's the one? It's the guy that dresses like the girl and talks about being from Philly. I was like, I can't.
Oh, Aunt Pat?
Yeah, Miss Pat.
Mi-
Your Aunt Pat.
No, Miss Pat fucking rules. Aunt Pat.
Mary
Yeah.
Pat. I was like, okay. Like, I don't. You just saw me, and you
Yeah.
tell me about Aunt Mary Pat.
I just feel like all the posting
Yeah.
is going to pop the bubble sooner than we thought. Where people are going to start just being like, I don't want to go see stand-up. But I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Fuck, I
Well,
hope I'm wrong.
look, it's bigger than it ever is. I mean, when I started to do the Garden, I mean, that's like, it's an anomaly. Like Sinatra did the Garden
It
once.
was like Dice did it, and everyone
Dice
was
did it
like,
once, and then
whoa.
Dane did it, and you're like, oh, but Dane's that big?
Yeah.
But now, like, Sebastian's doing it 8 shows in a row.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
He's
And-
working arenas like they're clubs. He's like, I'm doing Barclays, then I'm going up the street, gonna pop in at the Garden. And you're like,
I got how 10 o'clock.
he goes, and then I got to go out to New Jersey because the United Center. And you're like, that's fucking wild.
He posted recently. He's like, we added a late show, like 2 in arena.
That's
Yeah.
insane. Dude, I'm at Zany's in Chicago, and they're like, you're doing all right. And you're like, it's just a shoebox. And they're like, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love when comics like, another sold-out show at Zany's. It's like, it seats 110.
Yeah.
Guys,
You got to do 20 for it to make up one club.
And also that club would sell out if it just said advertised comedy.
Yeah.
You had to put a name on it.
Those audience.
Yeah.
I do love that fucking club, though.
it's a great club.
Just a
One of the
box.
best. Well, on Dore, I would say I really loved watching him. And you look at him, too, and you're just like, I'm watching his clip going, how's he not more famous? Like, he's so castable. He's a good-looking guy
He's funny as hell.
and very funny. Obviously, he throws acting into it because even that, I heard his voice crack, and I'm like, where's he going with this? And he's setting it up.
Yeah.
That joke easily could have just been done straight-faced.
Yeah.
He he's got, I wouldn't, he's not going to be in Schindler's List, but, he's got some chops in there where he's shifting gears and
He's a
giving
guy you
different
just want to
texture
watch.
jokes. Yeah.
Like, there's like, that's what's crazy is in comedy, you'll see people where you're like Michael Che has this where you're like, I just want to watch you talk. Chappelle has
Yeah.
that where you're like, you just talk for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
And if we get to a joke, that's great. But you're like, that kind of like gravity that certain people have.
Because I mean, all comedy is misdirection, essentially.
Sure.
Yeah.
You don't want the audience to know where you're going before you go there. But he's like, that's his art. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't like that. Like when it's
Yeah.
right, like the intentional misdirection. That's some of my favorite stand-up to watch. It's just you don't know where he's going. I'm just waiting to see where it's going to go.
My favorite one is where like someone will walk you somewhere and you know where they're going and they're like, yeah, we are going there. Then they twist it again and you're like, ah, fuck, that's good. Those are like my favorite jokes. Even with the smoking joke that he did, where I was like, oh, that's funny. He's comparing a relationship to a cigarette,
Yeah.
and then where he just kept getting more and more absurd at the end, where he's like, I light her on fire,
Right.
and then I use her up and I toss her on the ground, and then a homeless man has her way with her, and you're like, oh, it just keeps like, I like shit to just where you're like, oh, it's not done.
It's not done. He just keeps digging and
Not
digging
in a
and
beat to
digging.
death kind of way, in a way of like, that's fun.
More to the way.
Yeah.
You hit limestone, then you're done.
Yeah.
But he got to it. So, yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed that. So, okay, Chad Daniels.
One of the best stand-up comedians working that I am like excited because when I see him post like sold out show doing this theater, you're like, good.
Yeah,
Good. That's good for comedy.
sure, yeah.
Because he's a guy that's inspired a whole generation of guys that I think are famous now and older. And you're like, Chad Daniels was like the Midwestern murderer.
Right.
That you would hear. Chad was one of the last guys that you would hear like stories about,
Right.
like Fireside Tales, where like there's this guy Chad Daniels and he fucking murders.
Yeah.
Yeah,
People talking, and I was like, I had to dig into him, and then I got to work with him a couple times. I was like, this guy's
he's unbelievable.
great.
Yeah.
Living in Minneapolis or something.
Yeah, there was.
Go to somewhere, just kind of laying low.
There's certain people that I think they're just resigned to the fact of like they're not going to be living in the hills. So you got like Chad or Greg Warren.
Yeah,
they're just like
Greg Warren.
fucking killers.
Yeah,
They just live in the Midwest.
And I mean, I think before the internet, especially like, I remember when I was starting, there was all these guys that were on the road that you were like I remember before Tosh got on TV, that was like right when I started, he was just starting to get on TV and people were like, Daniel Tosh is like a fucking monster. He's down in Florida. He wasn't like really LA or a New York guy.
Right.
But this guy, Troy Baxley from Colorado that I used to open up for was like one of these guys that like, when I said his name to Attell when I moved to New York, he's like, I know Troy,
Right.
And they'd be like, I know that. Like Attell's like he's Yoda, so he knows all the past Jedis. But it was like a thing where you'd like say a road dog's name, and he's like, that guy's very funny.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I did a set the other night, and Attell was there, and Attell, SD still thinks I'm like this. I'm still like 24.
Yeah.
And so she still books me at 1 a.m. And I'm like, SD, I'm like almost 50. Like I want to go to bed. I do love to sleep.
I sleep so well.
So I do my set. Attell goes up. I'm like, I got to watch Attell. I watch Attell crush. He's like, hey, Stevie, come on. And we just, that little staircase up to the offices, whatever upstairs. And I don't know. I'm starting to come back to New York more often, but I'm still like, there's still a part of me like, I'm sitting there and I'm having a conversation with Attell, and I just watch him, and you're a comic, but you're like, oh, I'm like a comic. You're like a real comedian.
Yeah, it
like
makes you feel like a fraud.
You almost feel like a fraud, but you're a professional comic. But then you're sitting there, and I'm like, there's a part of me that I'm 22 again.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like, I can't fucking believe I'm hanging out with Attell. And every time I do a set, he still wants to chat and catch up, but there's still a part of me, that part of me like, man, this is so fucking cool.
I still have that.
Talking with Attell, he's the greatest.
Yeah, there's like there's comics. Attell is probably the best example of that, of where you're just talking to him and you're like, I've listened to Skanks for the Memories probably 1,000 times. And he's just talking and you're like, when I used to drink, I would sometimes, this is like one of those things where you wake up and like really regret. One time I was drunk at the Cellar and I just talked to Attell about Skanks for the Memories. And he wasn't like, because he knew me by then, he wasn't like annoyed or anything, but it was the greatest conversation of him breaking down why he couldn't do that album now, because he's a different comic.
Wow.
And I didn't understand what he was talking about.
Right.
I was like, you can do that album now. And he's like, no, you don't understand. I'm not that guy anymore.
Yeah.
I don't do, those jokes are great, but I have new jokes. And I was like, nah, I'm like hammered trying to build him up. But he's like, you're not listening to me. And I'm like, nah, you're the man. You could do that album. And he's like, no, I can't, because I'm a different guy. And I'm like,
well, even like crowd work, we all have bits that are crowd work.
Sure.
There's like bits that are pre-planned that people are like,
you just know what to say.
You know what to say, right?
Yeah.
And I'm watching Attell, and I'm like, I've seen a version of that before, crowd work, right?
Yeah.
And then he did like these 2 or 3 things, of course, that are just off the cuff, that are fucking brilliant. And he did this thing where he was making fun of somebody because of the hat they wore, and they're like, it was this distinct hat, and he's like, that's a hat you wear in the fog, and it got a huge laugh, and I'm like, oh my god, he kind of held it up, and then he went off for like 3 minutes about what you can say in the fog, specifically wearing that hat.
That's so funny.
I was like, God damn, like it was so specific, but he had the crowd in the palm. He had us and the staff is sitting there watching it.
Oh, it's
too.
unbelievable. One of my favorite crowd work things I've ever seen in my life was this old club called CB's in the Village that's gone now. But I watched Big J do a set, and there was a family there. And Big J just like a detective. He just starts peeling the layers back. When at first you're like, oh, they're family. And then he's like, oh, is that the dad? And he's like, no, I'm a stepdad. And he's like, you guys look kind of close.
Let me look under the hood here,
Yeah. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, it turned out the stepdad was 2 years older than the son.
There's something off here.
Yeah. He's like, Columbo. You go, funny you say that. And then it turned out that the mom and stepdad met playing World of Warcraft. And I was like, it was when the World of Warcraft was huge.
Just right over the plate.
Dude,
Here we go.
I was in the back laughing so hard, watching Jay just tear this family apart. Where he was like, World of Warcraft. And he's like, and you're 2 years older than the son? He's like, what's it like to bully your stepdad? And he just kept, he's like, you shove him in a locker? You're like, fuck my mom. And it was like one of those things where you're like, no, everyone else's crowd work's like, oh, you're
Where you from? What do you do?
Oh, what? Do you ever walk in fucking her mom? And
Those are those beautiful moments in crowd work where it just like, no, you don't hit that point until like one question that it
breaks it. It broke it up.
That's what's about to happen.
Yeah.
You don't even know. And then you hear that one thing.
It was,
got it. And now I can do this for an hour if I
it was so memorable that I was like, dude, that was one of my favorite things I've ever seen done.
There's some moments that'll never. I mean, you couldn't plan it any better. This 2 weeks ago in Atlanta, I was talking to this white girl who's dating a black guy. They've been dating for like 2 months, and just like it's not going to work out. Like all these standard lines I have, and so he gets to use the bathroom. I'm like, so he's your first black? Is your second black?
Yeah.
And so it becomes this thing, and he comes back, and we're just bullshitting, and when he was gone, I was setting her up, so I had a thing that I was able to, spring the trap when he came back. Did it, done with them, good. So I move on to this next guy. I'm like, I've never seen pants that color. Like, what color is it? He's like, I don't even know. I'm colorblind. I'm like, oh, so is she.
That's so funny.
And it was like, fuck, the one time, like, that will never happen again, and you couldn't construct it any better. It was it was a layup.
And you didn't have it filmed, but that was the beauty of it. Because people that were at that show were like, oh, I saw that thing. Everyone saw that thing happen. And then, I think when you film it, you're like, see? I don't know.
Even if it was filmed, I don't know what it would translate as.
I just feel like.
Because that impulsive
I don't think
nature.
Crowd work has ever been filmed. Because I think if you know the camera's there, you're going to play it a little bit harder.
Well, any TV set is the worst set you've ever filmed.
Yeah.
I've never had a great TV set where it's like, okay, I got to get this 5 minutes in. I got to fucking get it right. A glass will drop every time. Somebody will say something. Like things that had never happened before in my career will happen those 5 minutes. I'm trying to get a fucking tape.
And now it's just like people are like, yeah, well, you got to film every set. And you're like, but I'm still learning how to do this. And I don't like what I do right now. So stop.
Crowd work.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is bullshit.
It doesn't count, basically, yeah.
I still work on my stuff. I filmed a set at Friars Club not too long ago that was the greatest 20 minutes of crowd work I've ever in my entire life been able to do. And it just happened because one guy had his foot on the stage and the whole thing. And I went back to my, I was like, this is it. I'm just going to send this tape everywhere because this is pure
Sure.
Out of focus the entire time.
No.
There's many. Of course, because you cannot capture.
We're all going to have to start wearing body cams like cops in inner cities. And you're going to see me turn it off and I go, what's that, sir? Where are you from? Okay. And then I turn it off.
Anytime I'm around Artie or Godfrey, I just shut it down.
And then, don't say anything. You turned it off right there. You could see it. See the shuffling. You go, what's up, Artie? And then you hear it moving. Oh, what's up, Godfrey? Hold on. Chad Daniels.
Oh, we didn't even what? Oh, my God, yeah. Jesus Christ.
I also have a 14-year-old daughter, and I gave her a chore list with 3 words on it, and she goes, where's your chore list? You ever had a kid say something to you that then they're serious, but then you almost ruin it because you laugh? That's when I was like, oh, God, what? And I just go, what did you say? And she goes, where's your chore? She slowed it down like I actually didn't hear her, So I said, everything that happens in this house to make this home operate, subtract the 3 things I asked you to do, and that is my chore list. Remember when you woke up in a bed, warm and not hungry? Fucking check, check, check. I did that shit. So my chore list also has 3 words on it, and it says, keep her alive. And it expires in 4 years, so focus.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
It's just great.
He has one of my favorite jokes, I think, top 5 jokes of all time, which is basically, he's opened his head with, I got to play golf last week, and I finally beat my wife, and those are 2 separate.
That's great.
Like, it makes me so happy.
That's so funny.
It's just so perfect, so fast.
I saw Stanhope do an opener. He's like, a lot of comics do the difference between men and women. Well, here's mine. One of them's not at my shows.
That's really
Like,
funny.
fucking, I was like, the rest of the show, I don't even. That's the best joke. Oh, goddamn.
Yeah, Stanhope's another guy that's like, he's like a tell. He's just like, if there were like a
Yeah.
Jedi temple, it'd be like Stanhope
Yeah.
and a tell smoking cigarettes. It's just be a bunch.
Unhealthy
Yeah.
Jedi.
You'd walk in and you'd be like, guys, crack a window.
One of the greatest accomplishments I think in my comedy career is like 6 months after the first time I met Attell, I bumped into him. He's like, Mike, what's up? And I was just like, I melted. I was like,
Yeah.
he remembered that he met me, and I was like, this is the greatest.
Yeah.
For I just you're like, what the fuck, guys?
Jesus, guys.
Yeah, Stanhope I've met multiple times, and I mean, like, I still don't know if he knows me because I'm too much. I fan out, or I've been able to be around enough that I can like, hi Dave, how are you? I can like
yeah.
act cool,
Mhm.
but Stanhope, I'm like. 'Cause I used to listen to all his albums. I started in Arizona, so he was like a guy where you're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah, he's the guy. Like Deadbeat Hero is like one of the best, you know what I mean, albums of all time. It's like up there with Skanks for that.
I was out one night, and this is like, I hate to. It's only because it's proving how fantastic he is. But I was out one night with Vince Vaughn in Chicago. Johnny Depp called him up and said, hey, let's meet up. And Vince's like, you want to go to dinner with Johnny Depp? I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
And as soon as I sit down, he's like, oh, so you're a comedian? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you know Stanhope? I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next 15 minutes, we're just talking about Stanhope. I'm like, this guy is an A-list movie star, and he's as big of a fan, but he's also friends with Stanhope
That's
as
crazy.
any comic.
Drank all the wine in my castle one night. I don't know would you like a brown cigarette? Douglas would tell tales that were very silly.
Let's tell tales.
And you're like, all right, Johnny, don't talk like that. You know what was funny about Douglas was he was always so aware of what was happening. And you're like, it just seems like he'd be a lot to eat dinner with.
Yeah.
And you go like, was it weird? Like the dinner was
I mean,
he
you're
like,
sitting there, and it's
have you ever had escargot for an appetizer?
He would never get to his,
Yeah.
like, was almost
Yeah.
dead.
He goes, this reminds me of something Hunter S. Thompson once told me. You're like, all right. I'm a normal guy. I'm trying to watch the Ravens Steelers. He goes, you know what's funny about brain damage? That they say that it doesn't occur with emotions, but I disagree. And you're like, fuck, dude. It's just a guy that's been told yes his whole life. That you're like,
whole life.
shut up.
But couldn't be nicer.
Oh, by the way,
Fucking good looking.
I'm a massive fan of his. I mean, REJ and I started a 21 Jump Street podcast during the pandemic.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
We watched 3 seasons, and at first we're like, we'll do 2 episodes. We'll do 2 episodes of 21 Jump Street per 1 episode of our podcast, and then each episode of 21 Jump Street we were breaking down for 2.5 hours. And like,
Oh
using
my
clips,
God.
because it is so aged poorly. Dude, they do a gay bashing episode where you're like, I forgot gay bashing was like a national problem. And it's like an episode that how they handle AIDS. You're like, no, drug addicts, black people in general, not handled well.
And it's a show for kids, by the way.
It's
It's
a
like
show for
Fox Teens.
But you watch Johnny Depp become bored with the project and the biggest star in the world. You watch a guy stop caring about showing up to work.
Wow, really?
Where he's just
It's
like,
that apparent even
Yeah.
in the.
oh, it's crazy. And then all the flaws and the police.
You mean like Luke Perry
God,
on 90210?
shout out Luke Perry's son, who's in AEW. On
Is he really?
Yes, yeah, Jungle Boy.
No way.
Yeah, Luke Perry's son's a professional wrestler, a good one too.
And his list, if he could keep the wardrobe from, if he was still alive, from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Was that Melrose Place or 90210?
Oh, that's not a 2-0, but he had the fucking jungle hat, remember?
Yeah,
The
dude.
British hunter.
He should
He
have.
could have walked his son out in that same exact outfit.
Yeah, R.I.P., dude. What a hottie.
Oh my God, the best. All right, here we go. Number 3, we got Rory Scoville. This is
I mean,
A duo here.
you got 3 of the best comics.
This is what black people, when they think of privileged comics, like, this is the lineup.
This is I didn't grow up in the inner city white comedy.
Yeah, all you Madison Bigley would headline this festival.
I did a festival in
Sponsored by New Ballots and
here.
canned cactus.
And fucking Nature's Honest. What are those ones?
Sun chips.
The ones the granola bars that fall apart.
Yeah, I know you said that, but yeah,
Nature Valley. Yeah, there's Nature Valley Comedy Festival. I did a festival in Tulsa.
Yeah.
I think it was in Tulsa. Yeah, Blue Whale Comedy Festival. Rory headlined Friday. I headlined the same room Saturday. I went and watched Rory on Friday, and he was so good it fucked up my show on Saturday.
No, really?
Because I didn't believe in myself as a comedian. After I watched Rory just murder and bring joy to me in a way that I have not felt watching stand-up in so long, that I was like, he made the Grinch's heart grow 3 sizes that day.
I think we should leave the room, Mike, so he can watch this.
I just go like this. Oh, have you ever watched the clip of the nerd? We watched it on the bonfire. There's a nerd watching the episode, the last Star Wars trailer,
Yeah.
and they play it for him.
Yeah.
And the lady in Star Wars pulls out a lightsaber,
Yeah.
and the nerd watching goes, oh, like that. I feel like that's what I'm going to be like watching Rory.
Okay, let's
I'm gonna be like,
watch like
I probably have.
Off the cuff thing that I've always.
I found a book in the back. I thought I'd read a page out of it. This is the Journals of Christopher Columbus, page 33. Chapter 7. It's a quick read. Sunday, the 9th of September. When in the fuck are we gonna get there? God damn! What the fuck is this shit? Really? Really? Exclamation point. He wrote it out. He wrote out exclamation point. Really? Really? What the fuck is this? This is all, there ain't shit out here. There isn't shit out here. Thanks for the sponsorship. I don't need it. I'd rather have a family and a real life. I don't give a shit about spices. How fucking bad do you need cinnamon? How bad do you need cinnamon? Really? How bad? Ask yourself. It says that. Ask yourself right now, distant future. How bad do you need cinnamon? God damn. The whore on the ship is old to me. I'm bored with her. We kiss, then she goes down on me. I would go down on her, but she is the only whore on the ship. I hope we get there soon, because I want to swallow a fucking bullet every day that I wake up. I can't believe I agreed to have this as my career. A guy in a boat. 90% of the people on this boat are now dead. Right when I get off the boat, I can only assume me and everybody else on the boat is just gonna kill whoever the fuck we see.
That was great.
So he's so fucking funny. He one of the hardest I've ever laughed at his specials was his Netflix special that he taped in Atlanta, I think, where he has the jacket on and he does this thing about throwing frisbees. It's just like a really like whatever, it's like a bit about throwing frisbees. Sure. You're like, oh, it's silly. And then he talks about people who throw it like this. And he's like, who throws a frisbee like that confidently? And just this one act out where he goes, how you doing? There it is. And he says it and I showed Vecchione it out of context when we were living together. I'm like, watch this. I just bring it up randomly. Like, hey, here's that Scovel thing. He's like, what are you guys getting into tonight? There it is. And he just lets it go. Dude, it makes me laugh so hard every time I see it. He did it.
Whole special was, I was there for that whole taping.
Yeah.
And he did however many shows it was, and it was like completely new.
All different.
Yeah.
I don't know how he even got the cut out of that.
We did the Vodafone Comedy Festival together in Ireland, and this is like 2016, and I would mark my day around doing my set, then going to see Rory, or like seeing Rory, then going to mine, because every set was different.
Right.
And he did this thing, abortion was still illegal in Ireland, and he was like, I think abortion should be legal here in Ireland. And then they start clapping. He goes, shut the fuck up. You don't know why I want that to be legal? How about I want abortion to be legal so we can abort the babies that are going to be abortion doctors? And he's like, because you got to start somewhere. And it was like one of these things where it was so weird that I was like trying to follow in my head. I was like,
right.
fucking great. Rory Scovel is in my top 10 of all time.
Wow.
Like that's how much I love Rory.
He's definitely one that's like, I'm not, whatever that is, I'm not doing this.
Dude,
I'm not a comedian if this is comedy.
I was trying to tell Big J, he did this joke in Tulsa about how gangbangs start. And it's like, from everything to picking up the guys to them going like this, he goes, he just goes, oh, they're kissing. It's starting. They're starting. And then he goes around, he goes, hey guys, might want to come in, they're kissing. I think it's starting. Dude, it's so fun. You can smoke in here. You can smoke in here. Guys, it's starting, dude. It had me like walking around like Def Jam laughing. I like stood up and had to walk around. He's the best. I love him.
One of those guys, look, we all know him. I know how funny he is and talented he is, obviously, but it's one of those guys, it's like, how is he not doing theaters?
How is he not the biggest? How is he not Will Ferrell level?
Yeah.
Is my question. Because, you know,
well, especially this day and age, you know,
you see so much fraudulent shit happening, and then you like
someone in the industry would see that and go, oh, well, who are we going to pair him with?
Yeah.
What black comic can we pair him with? That's what they're going to say.
Rory was, did you see him in the Will Ferrell Casino movie? Where
no,
it's Sebastian and it's just Rory's in there by himself and he's like loving it. Sebastian's like doing his act and Rory's like, but the Rory reacting is so funny.
Yeah.
You know what's funny about this podcast is on my way here, I was like, man, I really hope Steve doesn't give me someone that I have to like, because I'm really trying to be very earnest in everything that I do.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, if you bring someone that I have to be like, I'll have to find a way to be like, he was nice. You brought up 3 comics that I love.
Oh, good.
That I'm like, whoo! Like when I first saw this Jon Dore, I was like, yeah, I fuck with Jon Dore. And there's Chad Daniels. I'm like, all right. And then Rory, I'm like, one of my guys.
Well, this is part of like it, but even like I think an episode or 2 ago we had DeRosa on, and I wanted to bring up the Gerard Carmichael Golden Globe monologue because I was like, somebody should be objective about this, and I was to the point where I was like I angry. About watching it, but as a comic, like going through it. But I think there's still a way to be objective about certain people. You see, I mean, I've talked about Jeselnik once or twice on this, where it's like, yeah, I appreciate the craftsmanship, but I can't take it more than 15 minutes.
Yeah,
like that. I need to watch a Pixar film. You
need conversation.
Yeah,
conversation. Here's like
Tom Cotter, for example. Like I love him. Great, boom, 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 boom. But after like 15 minutes, again, I'm like, shift gears. You got to shift gears on me for something.
That's why it's also impressive.
Oh my God!
He tells a joke teller, but you can watch him for like 2 hours.
And he'll weave it into the crowd. He'll weave into crowd work, but then his crowd work is better than the joke telling, and that is all spontaneous. The joke telling, he's had time to think about it.
Yeah.
He's crafting it. He's matriculating it all.
I mean, Chappelle was always my favorite because Chappelle was so conversational. That's why he was always my favorite of all time. Where
but
you
he's
were like,
good in philosophy, I think. He's getting behind why does this work this way, right?
Yeah.
Like he's really reverse engineering the society issues and going to a level that you're just like, wow, that is so above my pay grade, where he's breaking everything down to
he notices stuff when you're like, oh, I wouldn't have never. And I think like all the guys we've talked about, like Stanhope, man, when Stanhope did that fucking GoFundMe bit to open his, I think, last special or the most recent special, dude, it was one of those things where I was like, God damn it, that is the perfect take.
Yeah.
Where he was like, why am I giving you money? Your child died. You just had a windfall of money.
Right.
He's like, now where all your money was going is free. So why am I? Will you go buy a car because your kid died? And you're like, and then a bit. He had a couple specials ago about he believes in God now because his mom died, and he talks about giving her, like helping her die, and then he spent $10,000 on her credit card after she passed away, and he was like. It's crazy. I believe in God. There's an afterlife. How did my mom know I wanted all that stuff? And it's like, it's like so good that you're like, Kurt Metzger used to make me feel like that in the city. I would watch him and be like, what the fuck am I trying to do, dude? Because Metzger would have a take on White Precious. He has this joke about, you can join the army and then you'll get a job at Walmart. And he's like, or you could just go get a job at Walmart and you don't have to be a government killing machine. And he like talks about it. It's so fucking funny. He's like, you're gonna need all those Navy SEAL skills when you're folding sweats in the Husky Teen section. It's something like that. And you're just watching, you're like, God damn, that's like, Shane is like that.
Sure.
Shane Gillis, I'll like watch a take of his and be like, oh, that's fucking perfect.
Sure.
What a
yeah.
good take.
Yeah.
I love takes, dude.
Yeah.
I love a good take.
Well, as you know, our show, we end with a clip of one of the three of us. Again, I don't know who this is because we're going to sit there and be objective about everybody else.
Yeah.
We got to be objective about who one of us. So let's see who we got here.
And all roads are relative.
No.
I was alone a lot as a kid. I was just like a weird only child, so I just played with action figures.
Oh, hell yeah. I did play
That was
with
my
action
shit.
figures.
Loved action figures. I was 12. It's pretty
Same.
old.
Same.
Yeah?
I love this bit. Yeah.
It's pretty old to play with toys. Also at 12 years old, because I'm 20% white trash, I started smoking cigarettes. Do you know how hilarious of an overlap that is?
Yeah.
I would play with my G.I. Joes in earnest for 30 minutes and then go outside and fire up a Marlboro Red. Just like, think Cobra's got the high ground. Lost a Ninja Turtle to a lawnmower last week. Some little girl in my neighborhood walks up with a cigarette. She's like, you got a light? Ken and Barbie aren't doing so hot.
Dude, that's fucking great.
It's just that's a
Great bit.
That's just like a real. That was a real thing, and I changed it to GI Joes, but it was WWF wrestlers, and I loved action figures. Action figures were like as
You
an
still
only.
collect
No,
to a degree? No.
I found the fun that I have in action figures when I was a kid is now in video games. So I'll play video games and I get like the same dopamine hit. But I loved. Yeah, I was an only child, single mom, so our home life wasn't like bad, but it was it wasn't steady. It was like she would be dating a guy, and I think socially you don't know how to like. I miss my dad. B, I'm like, who's fucking Dale? And I just gotta hang out with Dale, and it's like the same. It's the same questions. You get the same questions when your mom's dating a guy as you do when a comedy club picks you up from the airport, where they're just like, it's the same conversation. Where you're like, how do I? You're like, yeah, school's good. I like football. You know, and like that's how it felt every time my mom's boyfriend was like, so what do you do? And I'm like, I play baseball, football, and I like school. And they're like, oh,
You know, Pauly Shore was here last week.
yeah.
Oh, fuck, mom.
Oh, they go, yeah, it's crazy. Exactly. Oh, you fucked a wheeze? But it was like, what I loved.
Started smoking cigarettes as well just to get out of the house.
No,
I gotta take a minute.
I started smoking cigarettes so my friends wouldn't call me gay. And then I liked action figures because it was like I could shut out and just like have imagination. And like my hippie aunt lived with us for a little bit, and she was always like, you just always have them fight. And I wanted to be like, you wouldn't understand the stories even if I let you know them. And you're like, Aunt Mary Ann, you thought Sinister and Wolverine were fighting? Just fighting? No. This is a rivalry that goes back eons. Because I would like really nerd the fuck out. I like loved that shit.
Yeah.
And I loved pro wrestling and I loved X-Men, and those were like my two
Sure.
go-tos where I'd be like, what are we feeling today? A little Royal Rumble action in the living room, or maybe I build a fortress on the stairs with bad X-Men with Magneto and his crew. But I started smoking cigarettes, and cigarettes are the greatest thing ever. I really miss them. I miss them.
No one tells you that it's
Yeah. Katie and I don't have a suicide pact. We have a cigarette pact where we're like, she's like, if you start smoking, I'm gonna start, because she used to be a bartender. She's like, she's still a Nicorette. She's like, I will come back. If you smoke, I will smoke too. And I go, same.
Yeah.
You do it, I do it. We're splitting a pack. It's not even a fucking
Have
question.
you come close?
It's
Especially
COVID.
during pandemic, I would think that.
COVID, there were multiple times. Drinking, I'm hitting 10 years in like 2 weeks, and I think like maybe
Wow. Okay.
maybe there's been like 3 times I've wanted to drink, like being around like Bert and all the guys. One time I was like, oh, I could suck down like fucking 10 beers right now.
Yeah.
Cigarettes, it's gotten where I was like I had to hold one of Jay's before. Just be like, I'll hold it. Like that fucking.
Just to hold it.
Oh, I just.
Really?
fucking-
I would think that would make you so much closer to smoking it if it's.
It's just you know you don't light. You just don't fire the gun.
It is like such.
It's just
the motion.
Is that why Dice does it?
Yeah,
just carry.
because it just feels. And joints. That's why I like smoking joints. Because lighting a joint, there's these things, these joints that they sell in Colorado called incognitos, and they look like cigarettes and they burn like cigarettes. And I bought a fucking pack of them. My mom lives down the street from a dispensary, and I'll drive around Aurora sometimes where I grew up and like look at the houses my mom and I lived in, being like, that's crazy. I never thought I was smoking it like a cigarette. And I got to my old neighborhood and I was like, I gotta pull over. And I just fucking pulled over and made a couple phone calls. My heart was racing. I was like, I'm high as fuck. I'm high as because I smoked the whole joint like a cigarette.
That's why.
Oh wow!
At all. And not a joint because I smoke it like a cigarette.
Oh, and then I was like,
And there's a bunch of kids seeing you by a stream with snake eyes and fucking.
This guy's fucking back. It was crazy because action figures. The kids I hung out with in middle school specifically were like cooler. They were like bad. They were the skaters. They were like cool, so they'd smoke cigarettes. They'd skateboard. They had girls that had like wore lipstick and shit, and you're like, what the fuck? And then I'm going home being like, my guys. I want to play with my guys. I remember one time, dude, we were like walking through my backyard as a shortcut, and one of the bad kids, one of my friends, knew where I kept my action figures, and he just pulled the basket down, and they all fell in front of my friends, and he's like, Soder plays with toys. And I was like, I think I was like 13, and I was like, those are my cousins. There was something where I was like, stop. It felt so naked.
Jerk off?
Yeah. Oh, dude, I jerk off. I love pussy. Are we going to go get pussy? Let's go get pussy, guys. And said they were kissing girls. I was like, I'm so scared. I want to go back and play with my toys.
All right. Well, that was another fine episode of Comic Pinata with our guest. Thank you, Soder.
Yeah,
It's always one of my favorites.
Dude, thanks for coming.
Love you. Mike, where can everybody keep up with you guys?
Comedy Pinata. Follow the podcast on Instagram. All the links are there. Watch it. You can listen to it, all that stuff, and follow us there. That helps us with the numbers. So.
And Soder's always on the road. I follow all your posts. You're one of the few comics I actually unmute and listen and watch. And I know you're on the road a lot, so coming up.
I got, when is this coming out? Next week?
Probably 2 or 3 weeks.
2 or 3 weeks. So Toronto, I think we're adding a late show, and then I'll be in Buffalo at Helium, Salt Lake City at Wise Guys, and then we were joking around about Zanies in Chicago, but I believe we're going to add Sunday shows to that weekend.
Beautiful.
So if the tickets will become available to see me, and then at dansoder.com for all tour dates.
There you go. Did you know car repossession is on the rise? Do you know you also have every right to stop a repo guy from taking your car? Consumers have broad rights to stop a car repossession from happening, and that is where the law firm at Sue the Collector can help you. If your car is about to be repossessed or your car was repossessed and you verbally told them to stop, leave your car alone, you were physically hurt or injured by the repo agent, or you took the wrong call altogether, you may have a case. The attorneys at Sue the Collector specialize in wrongful car repossession. They can help you or your loved one. If you or your loved one are injured, lost valuables, wrongfully had your car repossessed, call us now, 1-877-BAD-REPO. 1-877-BAD-REPO. Again, that's 1-877-BAD-REPO. Much love and thanks. Gratitude to Soder. Mike, as always, we'll see you guys next week. Comedy Pinata.
Paladin.